My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 81 fight card, giving you my picks, predictions, and DraftKings plays. But before I do, let me tell you about premium membership. We have a $10 a month offering. It's the greatest value in this space. That is an undeniable fact. And it's going to get you everything you have ever needed to be successful playing DraftKings Fantasy. You're going to go to WeWantPicks.com. You're going to click Become a Member at the top. It's only $10. And you will instantly unlock everything, including our DraftKings plays. You come in here, we're going to give you our cash core plays, our GPP core plays, live dogs, leverage plays, and the fades for this card. You're also going to get this cheat sheet. This will be fully populated at 6 p.m. every single Friday for every single event. And it's going to give you the DraftKings ownership projections, the scoring projections, and the leverage score for every single one of these fighters. And we're also going to rank every single fighter by their salary, depending on the type of entry you make, whether it's a cash game, a single entry game, or a multi-entry game. You're also going to get the best ownership projections in the game. These numbers will be on that cheat sheet. They're literally the best ownership projections in the game. And we're in the game of points of percent, meaning 0.2% difference between our ownership projections and somebody else's could literally be the difference between winning 70 grand and not winning 70 grand, because these numbers go into the DraftKings optimizer, which is also included in your membership. And this optimizer is going to use the ownership projections, use the scoring projections, and build an entry for you. It'll build 150 different entries for you, and you can use those entries to play DraftKings Fantasy. All of this is available for only $10 a month, as well as so much more that I didn't mention, like Bix, bets, and FanDuel plays. And it's been successful. Our community has put up almost $400,000 of winning DraftKings lineups on the board. $400,000 worth, $390,000 worth. But these are from the last 3 to 4 months alone. This isn't from years worth of entries. This is 3 to 4 months worth of entries, almost $400,000 in winnings. And that's because they're using the optimizer. They're getting the ownership projections. They're getting the plays, the scorecards, the cheat sheets, all of that. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. Let's go ahead and break down this card. We have all the salaries, 12 fights, a couple of short notice, a couple of put together at the last minute, but we have all the salaries for all the fighters. And opening up the UFC Vegas 81 fight card is Emily Ducote taking on Ashley Yoder. Emily Ducote is an astonishing $9,300. That should not be in your lineup. You should not be spending $9,300 on Emily Ducote. I think she wins. She's a good striker. She's got good takedown defense. I think she's going to come forward. I think she's going to beat Ashley Yoder in the striking. I don't see much grappling going on, but even if Ashley wants to grapple, that's not going to matter. Emily's going to be able to defend those takedowns. But if we look at her lone win in the UFC, which I think this looks like, she only put up 77 points. That'll not cover the $9,300 salary. She is a fade. If we look at Ashley Yoder, she's going to be better than her record, right? 1-4 in the UFC. Well, not 1-4 in the UFC. 1-4 in her last 5. But she is better than her record. I mean, she's losing to decent fighters. Angela Hill, Jin Yu Fry are her last 2 losses. But she's very, very tough. Let's look at this. Decision. Across the board. All decisions. She's insanely tough. She's not dangerous at all, which is why I do not think she's a good underdog. Because she's not dangerous. She's not going to get a finish. Yes, she's affordable, but she's going to need these takedowns to win this fight. She's not going to win a striking match. She's going to need these takedowns, and she's not going to get these takedowns against Emily Ducote. Both of these women should not be in your lineup. Then we have Chris Gutierrez and Alatengheli. This is an interesting fight. Chris Gutierrez, $9,000. He typically can be worth that price tag, 104, 97. He's got a couple decisions with no real meaningful action here that didn't cover the salary, but when he gets those finishes, he finds those finishes. He's got great low kicks. He's a good technical striker. He's going to come forward. He's going to work the legs. Then he's going to try to go to your head, look for that finish. He is coming off this loss to Pedro Munoz. That was not a good look. He was dropped. Pedro's not an especially dangerous guy. He was dropped, couldn't find his rhythm, was completely outworked there. He is taking on Alatengheli. Alatengheli has not fought in a year. Alatengheli is stepping up on short notice. He was originally booked for this card against Rani Yahya, a grappler. That fight dropped like 2 months ago, and now he's back on the card. So it's hard to say if he was positive they were going to find him a fight and he was coming forward and, or preparing and all of that, or he lost his opponent, held out hope for a few weeks, didn't happen, kind of did whatever, and they said, oh, we got you a fight. I don't know, obviously. But let's just call this short notice. He is a solid, well-rounded fighter. He's a technical striker. His problem is he can be low volume. He's almost too technical for his own good. He's waiting for perfect shots. He doesn't let his hands go. But he is a technical striker. He can move forward. He will work in grappling when he needs to. You'll see he took down 4 takedowns against Benoit. Bagarai took down 3 times. And then he just took down Chad Anheliger twice in that win. I think Chris Gutierrez wins this fight literally because Alatengheli is too low volume. I think he's going to wait too long, not let his hands go, and Chris will take over, especially with those leg kicks. With that being said, I don't think I'm going to spend the money on Chris. He's very expensive, and Alatengheli is a tough guy. He's not necessarily a guy you're just going to come, crack him in the legs a few times, and then knock him out. And as we saw with Chris Gutierrez's past scores, he doesn't necessarily score well without a finish. All of that being said, I think Chris Gutierrez wins this fight. But I think for DraftKings, Alatengheli is probably the better value. He's at $7,200. He is a very solid fighter. He's got the skills. He worked in the wrestling against Anheliger. I mean, a win over Kroom doesn't mean much. But the Casey Kenny loss, he just couldn't get his rhythm going. He couldn't really find his footing there. But he beat Benoit. The Benoit Bagarai win was a solid win. Yes, it's only 70 points. He's not scoring incredibly well. He needs to work in the grappling. And the reason he doesn't score that well is, look how low these significant strike numbers are. He hasn't broke 50 in any fight. Let's just go back very quickly to Chris Gutierrez. I mean, very different story here, right? He's getting past that unless there's a finish for the most part. So I think Chris Gutierrez is going to win this fight. I'm not going to spend the money. I don't see the finish, and I don't necessarily think the volume is going to be enough to cover that salary. But Alatengheli, you could potentially want some exposure to him in some of your lineups. Then we have UFC newcomer Melissa Dixon. No data here because she is a UFC newcomer. My read on her is very different than a lot of other people's reads on her. What I saw was a powerful, accurate striker. I saw somebody with composure that will come forward, touch you exactly the way that she's supposed to, the way that she wants to. Then she will initiate grappling exchanges. I don't know why she does that. I actually think her striking is good. People disagreed with me all week that her striking is good. I guess we'll find out tomorrow. The reality is, I think Melissa Dixon is composed. I think she's got solid striking. We know she's got decent grappling. She is not going to be the better grappler in this matchup. She is $8,600. Not crazy expensive, not affordable either, especially for an unknown UFC debut. Whoop, wrong click. She's taking on Irina Alekseeva. Irina Alekseeva is a world Sambo champion. She wants to get the takedowns. She wants to get it to the ground, and she wants to try to work her submissions. Her striking sucks. She's going to wing wild punches from her hips. She is going to walk you down like a zombie, throw wild, look to tie you up, look to grapple, look to get you to the ground. I think you probably need some exposure to both of these women in your lineups. And let me walk you through why. I think Melissa Dixon wins this fight. I think her striking is light years ahead of Irina, and she does have some grappling. Her grappling is hopefully good enough to not be submitted here, okay? My problem with Melissa Dixon is while her striking will be light years ahead of Irina, she does clinch for no reason at all. And the last time we saw Irina clinch somebody, she got into that half a second tie-up with Stephanie Edgar and then just rolled for a knee bar and got it. Very poor fight IQ, but it worked. Meaning, if it didn't work, she's getting pounded on. It's stupid. She loses that fight. But it did work. It showed that she's willing to take risks. And that is a little worrisome if Melissa Dixon's going to come forward and tie up. But Melissa Dixon should be light years ahead of her on the feet. I could see Irina rolling around like an idiot, not getting the takedowns that she needs, getting lit up on the feet, giving up a ton of control time on the ground. And all of a sudden, Melissa Dixon scored a ton of points because she's on top, pounding away. She's beating her up. And even if it goes to a decision, well, she's only $8,600, but she put up 100-something points because of the control time, potential for takedowns, maybe even a knockdown or a finish. Pick your side here. If you think Irina is going to roll to a knee bar and pull it off, then obviously she's going to be worth it, as she was in her last fight. $6,800 salary, put up 97 points. I think Melissa Dixon gets it done, and I think there's a genuine argument to be made that she could potentially be in your lineup. Obviously, a UFC women's debut, couple of question marks. We have Terrance McKinney. He's an absolute must. I get it. He's $9,500, and sometimes he wins so fast he doesn't score a ton of points, but 102, 105, I mean, a 97 would be fine, I guess. 127. I mean, you at least want to cover your salary. 9,500, you want 95 points at least. I would hope for a little more to take up that big of a salary chunk. The reality is Terrance McKinney is one of my most confident picks on the card. The pricing reflects that. The odds reflect that. This guy has incredible hands. He has incredible wrestling. He has a trash chin and trash cardio. Neither one of those things are going to matter in this fight. Neither one of those things. Because it's not going to go very long. He is fighting a short notice step-up UFC debut, Brendon Marotte. This guy is a decent striker. He likes to bounce in and out before he's going to really commit to the power. He's a Northeast guy. He's going to be very tough. He's going to have, some well-rounded abilities. He's even going to come and look to grapple. He is not going to be better than Terrance McKinney in anything. He's not going to be a better grappler. Not going to be a better wrestler. Not going to have more power in his hands. Not going to be in better shape. Terrance McKinney's never the better shape guy. Brendon Marotte's not going to be in better shape here. 3 days notice. I think Terrance McKinney just does exactly what he wants to do when he wants to do it, and he gets it done. He's probably going to be worth it. This is a weird card, and Terrance McKinney's as close to a guarantee as you're going to get for a finish. We'll talk about some other people that I'm positive are going to win, but may not be worth their salaries. Then we have Tainara Lisboa taking on Ravena Oliveira. And this is an interesting fight because Tainara Lisboa is a big-time favorite here, and I have very low confidence in her. She is a striker. She has that Muay Thai background. She wants to load up on her feet, throw some wild knees inside the clinch. She does move well. She's got that aggressive striking. Takedown defense is solid, and if she is taken down, she does have some submissions to take care of herself. She's coming off this UFC debut. She smoked Clark, just absolutely smoked Jessica Rose Clark, but we know Clark's deal at this point. She literally hates MMA and is done with the sport. She is taking on UFC newcomer Ravena Oliveira. If you're doing your own research, her last name could be Ravena Canuti, Ravena Marias. She's got 17 last names. She is a Muay Thai striker as well. She does have some takedowns. She uses them a little more often than Tainara does. She likes to stalk forward. She does have some low hands, but she'll enter the pocket, throw a flurry of punches, throw teep kicks, work in some clinch and some potential takedowns there. If it wasn't for the fact that Ravena worked into the clinch, I would actually pick her to win here. My biggest concern for Ravena is she's going to clinch with Tainara, and then Tainara's going to light her up with the knees. And Tainara's phenomenal inside that clinch, and Ravena likes to go to the clinch. That's my real big concern for Ravena there. But this is a super close fight. Ravena, $6,800 is appealing, but a UFC debut, and this is a tough fight. Tainara Lisboa, crazy expensive. You had one fight in the UFC, and it was against somebody who gets finished constantly. There's a lot of unknowns between these two women. I would not touch either one of them in a cash, single entry style lineup. But if you're doing these large tournaments, you're using our optimizer. The optimizer will build lineups for you. It's included in our premium membership. WeWantPicks.com. Click become a member. It's only $10. If you're using the optimizer, I would mess with the exposure a little bit and make sure you have a couple lineups with Ravena, with Tainara, because this fight could go any direction, and all of a sudden you can get a $6,800 fighter that ended up in optimal. Then we have TJ Brown versus Darren Elkins. TJ Brown, $8,800. It's actually a decent price for him because when he wins, he scores incredibly well because he puts up a whole bunch of takedowns. He gets some decent control time, right? Only 2 takedowns here, but almost 11 minutes of control time for 104 points. 6 takedowns here for 113 points. 2 takedowns for 80 points. That's not great. Wouldn't be too happy with that. But Kai Kamaka was a decent fighter before he got cut. Listen, TJ Brown is exactly that. He's exactly the stats I just walked through. He's a wrestler. Striking's not great. It's not great. It's okay, but it's not great. He's a very good grappler. He's going to come forward, look for the takedowns. He's going to get into some jiu-jitsu scrambles, try to keep that control, but he's a grappler. That's what he wants to do. His takedown offense is great. He's averaging almost 4 takedowns per fight. That's great. He's getting the takedowns. He's putting in the work. His takedown defense sucks. He can't defend the takedown. It's at 36%, meaning 64% of the time that people want to take him down, they do. How about how fast I did that math, by the way? So TJ Brown, great offensive wrestler, terrible defensive wrestler. And it's a tricky fight because he is fighting Darren Elkins, who is also a grinding, come-forward offensive wrestler. Darren Elkins looks the part. This dude is, as Jacob says, Indiana tough. Wild tattoo across his chest that says damage. And this guy is just going to come forward, take whatever beating you give him, not stop, try to work in some takedowns, bomb away, and just try to grind out these wins. He is not particularly good at anything, but he is incredibly tough, and he's a junkyard dog. He just is. You can count on him to not quit. I think if you're building a lineup, you probably need some Darren Elkins in it at $7,400. Even in these losses, 36 points in a decision loss is not Obviously, you want a winner, but optimal lineup doesn't always have 6 winners. That's just not how it always works out. And if we're talking underdogs, we're talking point per dollar value. I think Darren Elkins is looking pretty good at $7,400. He comes forward. He grinds those takedowns. I mean, Jonathan Pierce is a very good wrestler. Darren Elkins took him down twice. Darren Elkins took down Georgi 7 times. Obviously, TJ Brown's a little bit better than that, but the reality is TJ Brown has terrible takedown defense. Darren Elkins has very good takedown offense. I do think TJ Brown probably wins this fight if I'm just picking a winner. But if I'm looking at the salaries, I'm factoring in the upside, the risk. Darren Elkins at $7,400 all of a sudden is looking pretty good. Then we have Christian Rodriguez taking on Cameron Saaiman. This is one of the more controversial fights. A lot of people are 100% positive on one side or the other. The Christian Rodriguez people talk, underrated, nobody's appreciate him. This guy, he's going to dominate. Saaiman sucks. The Saaiman people, this guy's the best. He's going to dominate. Like everybody, nobody knows how to be a reasonable person around here. You're 1,000% sure one side or the other. Let's be reasonable. Christian Rodriguez is actually a pretty good fighter. He's a slick striker, got solid movement, good speed. He does bounce between weight classes. This one and only loss was at 145 pounds. He was grinded out. He's now down to 135. He's probably going to stick around for a little bit of a while. A little bit of a while. That makes sense. Idiot. His takedown defense is only 66%, which is decent. It's not amazing. It's not terrible. It's decent. 66% of the time, people are taking down that bum downtown TJ Brown. Anyway, he's coming off this win over Raul Rosas Jr. I think that is the only reason he's the favorite here. Yes, slight favorite, but I think that's the only reason he's the favorite here. But if we zoom out and have some perspective, he got his ass kicked. Raul Rosas Jr. beat the brakes off him in the first round, took him down, did whatever he wanted to do in the first round. Raul Rosas Jr. at the time of that fight was 17 years old, got tired, and then couldn't get it going again in the second and the third round. And now here we have Christian Rodriguez, an adult man who's supposed to be this phenomenal fighter, this great striker everybody wants to talk about. All of a sudden has all the cardio. His 17-year-old opponent is gassed, and Christian is he wins the fight. He wins the decision. But the reality is he should have stopped him. If he's that good, he should have stopped him. He had a 17-year-old kid that had no cardio left. I think Christian Rodriguez gets a little, I don't want to say too much credit for the Raul Rosas Jr. win because he beat him fair and square. I'm not crying foul. But I think if you look at it a little more objectively, you beat an inexperienced kid that gassed out. Christian, phenomenal for him. He didn't gas out. He had all the composure. He could have gassed out, but he fought that fight very, very smartly. It wasn't Christian's skills that won him that fight because his skills lost him the first round. It was his cardio and his composure that won him that fight. He's fighting Cameron Saaiman. Cameron Saaiman is not a guy that solid cardio and composure is going to get you a win over. Cameron Saaiman is a technical striker. He can grapple when he needs to. He does a really good job stepping in, lighting up combinations, finishing the combination with leg kicks, and circling out. Just when you think you have his striking cadence figured out, he's going to grapple you. 2 takedowns against Michel before the stoppage. Took down Martinez. And people are going to talk about this fight and eye pokes and all this other bullshit. The reality is Cameron Saaiman is very good. He's very, very good. I think he's the better striker between the two of them. I think he's the better grappler between the two of them. Therefore, he's got to be the pick, and he's underdog money, $7,800. I like Cameron Saaiman. Then we have Edgar Chairez, Daniel Da Silva, or Daniel Lacerda, or in this case, Daniel Lacerda Silva. These last names is wild. Anyway, we just saw this fight. This fight was just a couple of weeks ago, and it was a no contest, or here ND for no decision, because Edgar Chairez was taken down. Daniel Lacerda took him down. They got into a scramble. Edgar ends up in a guillotine or some front arm choke. And Daniel Lacerda's arm just goes 100% limp. His arm is 100% limp out of nowhere. And the referee stopped the fight because he thought he was unconscious. He was not unconscious, or at least he presented as not being unconscious. And they said that was a bad ref decision. They called it a no decision. They're running it back. The reality is, Edgar Chairez is a very, very tough guy. He's not an easy guy. You're just going to go in there, beat him up, and get him out. He's a tough guy who can weather a storm. He's going to work forward, take whatever beating you give him, throw his own strikes, throw his own shots, work in a single leg takedown, and grind out a win. He's got slick submissions. He's not the most dangerous striker, but he can cut you up, he can come forward, and he can really make some stuff happen. As I mentioned, he's fighting Daniel Da Silva Lacerda. He's 11 last names. Daniel Lacerda is the most talented winless fighter in UFC history. I'm sure I'm forgetting about some people that I can't think of, but the reality is This dude has great striking. He has great submissions, good takedown. Like, he is very, very talented. Problem is, he just chases those finishes, and he will put himself into harm's way, which is why he gets knocked out, why he gets finished. One of these was a bad, I forget which one. One of these was a bad stoppage. I forget which one. Anyway, he comes in there. He's all out. He goes all out chasing those finishes, and he gets himself into a little bit of trouble. He has early success, though. He beat the absolute piss out of CJ Vergara. Two knockdowns and a takedown. This is all in the first round. And then he has no cardio, no gas. So Daniel Lacerda, the biggest issue here is he gets finished 100%. I think Edgar Chairez should be in your cash. I think he should be in your lineups. But you need some exposure to Daniel Lacerda in your tournament lineups, because there is 100% a world where he wins this fight. And look what he did to CJ Vergara. That fight could have been stopped 10 times, and it wasn't. There's absolutely a world where Daniel Lacerda wins this fight. So some exposure in your large tournament entries, especially at this price point. I mean, he put up 46 points in a loss in a fight that ended in the second round. But I still think Edgar Chairez will win. I mentioned how durable he is, how tough he is. That's what's going to win him this fight. He will weather the early Lacerda storm and then come back and then get the finish, as everybody else that has beat him has done. Then we have Michel Pereira taking on Andre Petoski. Michel Pereira lost his original opponent, and now Andre Petoski is stepping up on short notice. Michel Pereira is $8,600. Let's look at his last couple fights. Didn't cover it in the win over Ponzinibbio. Didn't cover it in the win over Fiallo. Would have covered it in the Nico Price win. Didn't cover it in the Williams win. I mean, you could say barely covered it in the Imadaev win. I don't think you draft Michel Pereira. I do think he wins this fight. He's the guy that was already on the card. He's a monster. This fight is at 185 pounds. He's a 170 pounder. Doesn't matter. He's going to be the bigger fighter in this matchup. He's a beast of a guy. He's very athletic. He's very talented. He used to be dangerous. Pre-UFC, early UFC was dangerous. He beat the shit out of, what the hell's his first name? He won the freaking Diego Sanchez. He beat the absolute piss out of Diego Sanchez. This was a DQ because Diego was like, ooh, that was an illegal shot. He beat the piss out of him. And then he went ahead and won a whole bunch of fights. I mean, the reality is he's putting up wins. I think he wins this fight as well. He's a talented guy. He's only 30. All the things. He doesn't seem to be as dangerous as he used to be. He has calmed down with the craziness, which is great because it helped his cardio, but terrible because all of a sudden he's not dangerous and he's putting up scores like 62 points, 74 points. I don't want that for my $8,600 salary. He's taking on Andre Petoski. Andre Petoski is a very good wrestler who's got some powerful hands and good jiu-jitsu. Powerful hands. I didn't say good striking. I said powerful hands. The striking kind of sucks, but it is powerful. He does wing punches. His issue, though, is he does chase finishes as well. He's looking for the big knockouts. The fact that he was a close decision with the chinniest guy at middleweight, Gerald Meerschaert, is a problem. He was just chasing. I think he's going to look better in this fight than he did the Gerald Meerschaert fight because, in my opinion, his issue in that fight was he did get a knockdown. His issue in that fight was he knew Gerald was chinny, so I think he was just chasing the knockout. In this fight, we haven't seen Michel Pereira be chinny before. I don't think Andre Petoski is going to chase the knockout, and he is stepping up on short notice, which means he might be all in on the wrestling because that's his bread and butter. That's what he did his entire life. So he may come in and just lean on what he's comfortable with, which is diving at legs. And if he does that, he could potentially have success. Michel Pereira has a 99% takedown defense or something absurd like that, 94% takedown defense. So this is definitely a tricky fight to pick. I think the value will be on the Petoski side. He basically, at this $7,600 salary, he has covered in every single fight he's ever been in, where I just showed you at the $8,600 salary, Michel Pereira covered twice. So, pick your side if you'd like. It may not be a particularly high-scoring fight, or we can get a bunch of takedowns, control time. I do think this goes to a decision. Petoski's tough. I think Pereira wins. Pereira doesn't score that well. So, I'm not going to have Pereira in my lineup, but I do think he wins this fight. Adrian Yanez, Jonathan Martinez, 100% pick your side. Pick your side. I'm going to tell you who I think wins. One of these guys should be in your lineup. One of them will make optimal. Whoever wins this fight is going to score really well. Adrian Yanez, phenomenal striker. Yanez. He's got the tilde over the end. Phenomenal striker. I mean, his boxing is laser fast, accurate, powerful, all the things. Takedown defense just okay. A little bit of a slow starter, but his striking is absolutely incredible, and he lights people up. He absolutely lights him up. I mean, the win over Tony Kelly was impressive, but even if you want to say Tony sucks, the Costa win was impressive too. He straight up lost that first round because he was a little too slow to get going. Then he put it together and really made stuff happen in the second round. Adrian Yanez takes a little while to get his hands going, but once they're going, he is faster and more accurate than everybody he's in that cage with. He's fighting Jonathan Martinez. Jonathan Martinez is the better fighter in this matchup, right? He's the more well-rounded guy. He's got jiu-jitsu. His striking's not going to be as good, not even close actually, but it's still decent striking. He's got good jiu-jitsu, good takedowns, all the things. This Nurmagomedov, the Saeed Nurmagomedov win, it was a little sketchy. It was a control time that got it, but that was without a takedown, right? It was a little sketchy. It didn't seem like the greatest win. He only scored 64 points. But I do think this fight's going to be a little more of a barn burner. I think there's going to be a lot of back and forth, and there's going to be some grappling exchanges. I think if Jonathan Martinez wins, I think he's going to finish Adrian Yanez. If Yanez wins, I think he's going to finish Jonathan Martinez. So, frankly, I think you have to pick your side in this matchup. And, whoever wins this fight will probably score really well. I am on the Adrian Yanez side, but it's not a hill I'm going to die on. This is a great fight and what should be a close, fun fight. Then we have, where are we? Viviane Araújo in the co-main event against Jennifer Maia. Viviane Araújo is another, first round. I don't want to say first round or bust, but because she's not finishing anybody. Like, she's not finishing people in the first round. But the reality is Viviane Araújo does come out like a bat out of hell, has phenomenal cardio, very dangerous early, and then fades. She's a grappler. She is comfortable striking. She got some technical boxing, some good low kicks. She does get hit very often. She's got a negative striking differential, but she's athletic. She's fast. She's always looking for a finish, whether it's striking or grappling. But again, she does slow down. She wears down over time, but she does have an impressive 82% takedown defense. She's coming off this loss to Amanda Ribas, where Amanda just brought it to her early and she didn't have much to offer. She's taking on Jennifer Maia. Jennifer Maia is my second most confident pick on this entire card. Potentially my most confident pick, right? In competition with Terrance McKinney. I trust Jennifer more than Terrance. Terrance is chinny. Jennifer's not chinny. Terrance has lack of cardio. Jennifer doesn't have lack of cardio. The problem is, while I do think Jennifer Maia is going to win this fight, probably dominate at 30-27, we need a perfect fight. We need it to look at least like the Casey O'Neill fight, because that is the only fight where she basically covered her salary. 78 in a win, that's not enough to do it. Couple of losses, 70 in a win, that's not enough to do it. She did get 100 against Joanne Wood because of the submission. She's not going to submit Vivi. That's not going to happen. 75 in a win, 50, she has literally only covered her salary twice. Once was a submission, which she will not get in this fight. And the other one was just a perfectly fought fight. If you think Jennifer Maia fights this fight perfectly, the same way she did against Casey O'Neill, defends all the takedowns, has incredible volume. That's literally the most amount of significant strikes she landed in any fight. And it's basically, it's 50% more strikes landed than her next highest, her previous highest. But if we look at the trend, 2 fights ago, super busy. Last fight, super busy. So if that continues, then Jennifer Maia is going to be worth the money. $8,500. I don't know. I'm going to go back and forth on it, because what probably ends up happening, and this looks like a Jessica I win, where she only puts up 70 points and I spent 85, which would be disappointing, but I'm very, very confident in her to win. Then we have the main event of the evening. This is another pick your side kind of fight. Sodiq Yusuff, relatively untested. He is a fantastic striker. He's got a ton of power. He's very fast. Nice wide variety of attacks. He is 7-1 in the UFC. And frankly, even in this Allen fight, you could argue he won the striking in that fight. And that was his only loss. If we look at his level of competition, Don Shainis kind of sucks, right? He beat a UFC newcomer or whatever. And that was by a guillotine because Don took a bad shot and he just sucked it up. Alekseeva, this is a good win, but the reality is, a lot of people talk about how he struggled in that fight. He only put up 67 points. He didn't look great in that fight. But Alekseeva is weird, doing weird stuff, so Sodiq struggled with it just a bit. Andre Fili, that is probably the best win that he has in his career. Andre Fili is very, very good, but that was 3 years ago. So Sodiq Yusuff, very good striker, very fast striker, powerful striker, all the things technical. He beats most of these people. The problem is he is fighting Edson Barboza. This guy, let's scroll to the bottom. 2010. 13 years ago, actually almost exactly 13 years ago, was his first fight in the UFC. started with 4 wins. Terry Edom, this was the wild, and can I get credit for remembering this guy's first name and how this goes? Terry Edom, a spinning heel kick to the head. That's a forever highlight. They still show that highlight, and you will see that highlight Saturday. That's from this fight in 2012. Lost to Jamie Varner. Dude, I'm killing it with these names. The memory on me. He lost to Jamie Varner, but back in the day, Jamie Varner was very good. And then all of a sudden, he's putting together some wins. You recognize that name? He's putting together some very solid wins. You recognize this name? Recognize this name? Recognize this name? Recognize this name? Like, he put together some very, very good wins. Recognize this name? I mean, he ended up losing the rematch to Felder, but he beat Burgos. Remember that standing zombie knockout? The way I broke this fight down originally was Sodiq Yusuff is younger, faster, hits harder. But Edson Barboza, I mean, look at the experience. Look at the names he beat. World champions, title contenders. Look at the names he beat. And I ran through that list. That is in a different weight class. But the reality is Edson Barboza is phenomenal. Always has been. He will be until he officially looks old. I think Sodiq Yusuff's going to be faster. He's going to beat Edson to the punch. Could potentially win this fight. I think Edson Barboza is going to be far more experienced, be a very dangerous guy, could absolutely win this fight. If you're a premium member and you see all of our picks, you'll see that I picked Sodiq Yusuff, and you'll see it says very low in the confidence, very low confidence in Sodiq to win this fight. Edson Barboza, all the upside at $7,500. I do not see him just getting waffle stomped instantly. Sodiq does hit hard. I mean, Chikadze got to him. Sodiq does hit hard, could get there, but I just don't necessarily see it. I mean, Gaethje got to him, but Gaethje, man, different animal. Pick your side in this fight. It's going to be a great fight. It's not the most name-heavy card, but it's a solid card with some good fights here. I'm probably going to have Barboza over Sodiq in my lineup, but we'll see what happens when I'm playing around with those salaries. Guys, become a premium member. You're going to unlock the cheat sheet. You're going to unlock the detailed breakdowns of who should be in different types of lineups. You're going to unlock the best ownership projections in the sport. The $10 for premium membership, these ownership projections alone, and this is not, I'm not being whatever, they're probably worth $50. Just these numbers on the screen, probably worth $50. If you go to an Awesemo or Roto Grinders, they're charging $80 just for you access to UFC stuff. And their biggest thing is the optimizer and the ownership projections. Well, here you go. Here's your optimizer. It'll be preloaded with our projections. WeWantPicks.com, only $10 a month. All 4 events in a month. WeWantPicks.com, click become a member at the top.